See, what you gonna do is first you gotta shave it up, and then you gotta shave it across this way. But you gotta make sure the grain is right.
I don't think I should.
Then you gotta
be the one to shave
check
your
like
head.
the moon face. What?
I don't think I should be the one to do it.
Go ahead, baby. You just kind of like
I
hit it with the boop boop.
That's why I pay to go get mine done. I
mean, it's just bald. Bald is easy.
I know, but I feel like I'll make bald ugly.
Boop. Come on, baby. Let's go.
Nah.
Come on now.
Hello.
Oh shit.
Thank y'all for tuning into this episode of 3 in Motion. This is me and this one's episode about, our amazing communication, because we're so good at it, right?
We talking.
We're so good at it. We're working on it. We're working on it. So
watch the episode. It's really good.
It's really good.
Really good.
We talk really good, really well.
No, we got a good way of talking.
We have a good way to talk, and we do have a good way of talking. And we figure out how to work with each other. So tune in, tell us what you think, and wish me luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Alright, let's do the show.
Alright, awesome people. So welcome to Energy in Motion. I am your host, Rah Kalon, and I am elated to be here with you. And I'm also elated to be here with my beautiful girlfriend, sweetheart of mine. Ugh, that's gay. Okay. Anyways, so gay, so gross.
Hey guys, I'm Chels.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't even get the opportunity to be rude and not to introduce her. She will take her own opportunity to be introduced.
I'm Chels.
So, it's been a whirlwind of the past week. There have been so many amazing things going on. I want to just give a quick shout out to, the Healing Project DFW. I want to give a quick shout out to Open Minds Only, to just all my friends, all my family, and all the new people who I got to meet at the homecoming experience. Shit's just been dope lately, and I'm just so thankful.
It's very awesome.
Now, I have to extend an amazingly big thank you to you, Chels, because I would not have been able to navigate all of these things without you. The stepping into greatness by walking in spirit retreat, the experience, all of it. So thank you. Thank you. This whole episode is really about, how we talk to each other, and showing you appreciation is one of my favorite things because you just have such a sweet heart about receiving it. So I really want to start this particular episode off with us kind of going over how we met, and then talk a little bit about our intent versus impact with how we talk to each other, kind of review our relationship contract, and then just kind of let flow how we feel about our relationship right now. So are you open to doing that for the people?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Let's share. Let's share. So how did we meet, dear?
Oh, you want me to tell the story?
I want you to tell.
Okay.
You know I talk plenty. You tell the people how we met.
So I'm busting it down on the dance floor. We're at some UNT party.
It was a Zeta event. It was like a back to school. It was in August 12th.
Yeah. And I was on a Tinder date. Not really a date. Mm-hmm. I met someone via Tinder, and they were really cool, and they called me. No one ever calls anybody. And she called me and left me a message that sounded very Mahalia. And so shout
out to Mahalia.
Yeah, Mahalia. And so I was like, yo, this person's awesome. Obviously, I need to hang out with them. And so, yeah, she took me to this party, and the music was on point. There were beautiful black people. I probably hadn't been in a room with that many black people in a while. I just came from Maine. For the past 6 months, there were very few black people.
Melanated folks around.
Yeah. So it was a great time. I had just gotten back. Then busting it down on the dance floor, and this beautiful creature walks up to me and asked me if I had locks. Mind you, this creature also had locks.
I did have locks.
And so I'm pretty sure she was aware that I had locks.
I was aware. They could have been like really well done kinky twists or another type of Nubian hairstyle. I don't know, but
I was shaking that stuff all around. You could see all my roots.
Shake them dreads. She was.
I was like E40. Jesus Christ, he had dreads.
So shake them. You were. She was dancing so enthusiastically.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chatney, who was there at that moment, because I turned to Chatney and I was like, "You see that girl over there? You see that girl dancing?" And she was like, "The one that's dancing so hard." Yeah, the one that's dancing so hard. I was like, "I'm gonna talk to her," and she was like, "Oh, okay." Good luck to you.
Shout out to Chat.
Shout out to Chat for just the blissful introverted responses.
You know,
Love
one
that.
that's dancing super hard.
Yeah, that one.
That one.
So, what was your interpretation? I mean, because at the time it obviously wasn't that, oh, this is a terrible, lame pickup line. You seemed very welcoming of this terrible pickup line.
I think it's only a lame pickup line if the person talked to you is not who you would want to be talking to. But you definitely seem like somebody that would want to be talking to you. You first were liking my vibe. I felt like you came into like a good space with
bearing
me.
compliments.
Yeah. And so I was down for it.
Yeah.
And then we exchanged numbers. And then I went on dancing the night away.
Yeah. No, but you gotta still like peep and acknowledge my game though.
Right.
I
didn't swoop back.
I swooped back.
Yeah,
See, the thing
happened.
is, people, you don't go straight for the number. You plant the seed of, oh, they seemed interested, but wait, they didn't have to follow through.
Right.
Detachment. Practice it.
Yeah.
Walked away. 45 minutes later, party dying down. She dancing a little less hard.
Mm-hmm.
Come back over like, I don't want to be weird or nothing, but can I get your number? And she said yes.
And it makes it seem like you remember them, because you do remember them. But it almost makes like you guys seem closer because your mind is like, I know this person.
Yeah.
And so it's actually a very good tactic to come back around because they're more comfortable with you in general.
The second time around.
Yeah, because you're familiar now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And people love familiarity.
Yeah.
So from there...
Science.
we somehow were able to communicate very well via text, even though she's not a texter.
Mm-mm.
And despite the fact that she wasn't a texter, I didn't take that as immediate lack of interest. And then we ended up going to Twilight and Deep Ellum, right?
Yeah, had some drinks.
Really
dope conversation.
Very open conversation, which still ended up leading to our first experience of miscommunication, because I had just gotten done seeing a gentleman who was long distance. He lived in Georgia, and I didn't know if he was completely out of the picture. And now that this beautiful woman was in the picture, and I really wanted to be honest and give her my genuine, transparent attention, I said that we should take things slow. Just because, I just got out of something and I don't know exactly where that's at. I am interested, but I think we should take it slow. And she seemed so receptive. You seemed so receptive to that. And it was so great. It was refreshing because it almost took like the pressure off of first impressions, that pressure that it can give.
Yeah. Travel into Chelsea's head. That exact same conversation came from on my side. I decided to start my whole phase.
Your what phase?
My whole phase. Tatiana down, Tatiana.
I'd
never been a hoe. I never really had, just been casual with people. And I'd always done serious relationships. And I was like, I just want to experience things. I want to experience people. Most of my relationships have been long distance at this point. Let me just be out here. And so that's where I was coming from. And I was having success. Like, I was actually going on good dates. I was, out here with the people. And so
being well
when you're
received.
saying, I don't remember I'm not good at like transcribing the conversation. But what I heard is, let's keep it casual. I like you. We vibing. Let's keep it casual. I'm like, bad. Casual.
Yeah.
I got that. And also, like, normally when I'm getting to know somebody, it's friends first. And then we see if something vibes from that.
Yes.
And so you definitely had good vibes. Wanted to keep hanging out. But I wasn't sure where it was at. And
wires were crossed. Wires were not in alignment. But they were perfect for what they needed to be, because they did somehow end up putting me in the friend zone. And I didn't want to be in the friend zone. I very much wanted to not be in the friend zone. But for this to even ended up as a story that would end us here, it had to go the way that it went. So further from Chelsea's brain or Chelsea's mind, how was it evolving from that point? So we ended up going to see, what was it, Sausage Party?
Yes.
That terrible movie That was the next time we hung out.
Yeah.
She wanted to go to the movies at like 9:45 in the morning. It was so weird. And I lived like out in the boonies, and she wanted to go to the movies like in the uptown of the city. So it was like a 45 minute drive for me. And I was like,
You picked me up.
No, I didn't. We met there at...
I remember you being at my house at some point that day.
No? I didn't go to your house yet.
Okay.
No, we were at like... We went to the Galleria, and we met for a 9:45 a.m. movie that it took me 45 minutes to drive to. And that's how I knew that I liked you, because I'm not a morning person. And I'm like, to go to the movies...
Lack of communication. You didn't let me know
I
anything.
did, because I didn't want to inconvenience you, because I liked you. I'm not saying that was the right thing to do, but I'm saying that's what I did. So
I would have been no inconvenience. I hadn't had nothing to do that day. I just wake up early
and boom.
And I went to manatee prices.
Matinee. Anyways, so in my head, I really had an interest in kind of speeding things up. I wanted to be affectionate with you. I wanted to like flirt with you more, and that just wasn't the vibe. And so it took about a month, maybe 2 months of us being friends before we actually had an honest conversation about what the deal was. And that conversation, from my point of view, was a really big pivotal moment, because it gave me the chance to be rejected and get to decide, do I want to let that determine if I'm still friends or even in the life of this person? Because I very much enjoy them, even though I find them very overwhelming. I found Chels' personality so overwhelming at first. It was really she's very attractive. I find her so sweet, so cute, but she was so overwhelming. But I wanted her around. I liked her energy. I liked being around her, even though it was a new experience. And so when I finally asked, like, do you find me attractive and do you see me that way? And she was like, not so much. I don't feel like a sexual pull towards you. I don't feel that towards you. It was very uncomfortable, but it was a great opportunity for me to decide, like, how prideful am I? Because she's not saying she doesn't want me around. She's saying that she doesn't see me in that way. And so far, since we hadn't been flirting that much, since we hadn't been affectionate, there was really nothing that was going to change other than just keeping it that way. It just meant that my intentions or my desire to take it further or somewhere else weren't going to be reciprocated. And that was something that I had to decide if I was open to. And surprisingly, unlike me in the past, prior to that moment, I was open to it. I was open to still remaining friends and biting back whatever feelings I had that weren't reciprocated. And it was definitely a challenge and something that I struggled with at least for the first year and a half of our friendship.
I think it was a lot easier on me because I was in the vibe of let's just keep it where it's at. And so a lot of it.
So you just had a dope new friend.
Yeah.
Who happened to like you, but we dealt with that, so we're good now. It's so
not
simple.
That simple.
No?
Definitely
No?
not.
Okay, well then.
No, I mean, I can't, that's the thing, I'm not good at telling stories, so I don't remember the key moments.
She's downplaying. She's actually very good at telling stories.
I'm not. I don't ever remember the words. I'm like, I remember how it felt.
Well, speak on how it felt.
Yeah, I would just say it was easier. And so it was hard to see you upset, but I still wanted it to be what it was.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it felt like. You always felt empathetic, and you always felt very compassionate, and you always felt very understanding of why it was uncomfortable for me or why I might decide to end the night early or go home or get a little withdrawn or whatever. You were always very understanding. But that also made it even more annoying because I'm like, she understands me so well. It all piled on in that way. But eventually, we got to a place where I was committed to just having her as a friend. And we were successful at maintaining that friendship. And she's become my absolute best friend. And we've been together, 3 years now? Friendship-wise, just knowing each other as friends, we've been together for 3 years. But in March... in March of this year, March 31st, we became a couple in an open relationship. We consider ourselves polyamorous. And we define it how we are most comfortable with, that we just are open to experiences. If we have some situation that comes up and we want to experience that guilt-free, and that's not just speaking to sexual experience. We're talking about just mental stimulation, spiritual stimulation, that you want to make a connection with someone else. You're able to do that, and that you have a partner who you can come home to and say, hey, I had this dope experience, and you can tell the story to them versus trying to hide some new part of yourself that's been sparked or ignited. So we started off as friends. It was turbulent, at least on my end, because of having to deal with feelings of pride and being hurt about rejection and feeling unwanted. But all of those were things I needed to work on within myself anyways. Those were pain bodies or issues that I had from previous relationships, that it was great to have a situation bring it up for me to be loved and kept in this really sweet friendship, while also being challenged to look directly at these issues. So the friendship first narrative that has always kind of been tried and true really did work out for us, because, and I'd prefer for you to speak to this, somehow at the beginning of this year, some part of that narrative shifted because there was no pressure coming from my end. I was very comfortable with the fact that we were friends. I was open to, as long as Chels gets to be in my life forever, I will take her however it's most comfortable for the two of us to experience that. We don't have to base our relationship off other limitations of what other people would be comfortable titling or calling it. We don't have to be concerned over how affectionate we are or how not affectionate we are. And so what was the shifting moments for you that led to us actually entering into a relationship now that I was finally okay with not pursuing a relationship?
I think honestly it's all the things that you just said, but each one of those things required multiple conversations to get to. So like the one that stands out to me is like how affectionate or intimate we are. That had to be conversation over conversation, because we went through a stage where we were still friends and we just all of a sudden started having sex. It just was like a good night happened, and then from then we had sex for a good amount of time. Yeah. And so that to the drop off because of how I present, it's like, what's going on? And so we could have just not talked about it and let it have been awkward. Yeah. But we talked about everything. And that just started from conversations of honestly you helping me get to a place where I was open to a lot of conversations. And then I just started questioning everything about myself. I was just anything and everything, even like small little jokes I would make. I'm like, what? Do we actually mean that? Should we stop saying that?
What's that
like,
about?
Everything. And so I think that put me in a space of wanting to question everything, even the attachments we have to each other and the whole thing. And that kind of opened me up to poly. And I think having conversations with you and kind of almost breaking you down a little bit, little by little, just kind of like tapping at things
and it really was just for fun. It was for play for you. You love playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you were really you weren't interested in poly. You just were interested in seeing why I wasn't interested in poly.
I wasn't interested as in like, I'm trying to make you be in a poly relationship with me. I was interested in it as a subject. So yes, what you're saying about like dissecting and talking everything, I love questioning those things about myself. And then as soon as I kind of realized that I didn't care about a lot of things that I was told I should care about, I started questioning you about things that you cared about and asking you if you had a reason. Yeah. And often you were just like, well, that's just how I was domesticated, or that's how, enter blank here. And I just kind of kept questioning you in general. Like, I question you about everything. So it's not just about the poly. Like,
no.
Everything that we talk about, I often have like questions that kind of tap at the barriers of what you say you feel is your truth. Yeah. And just, I'm interested in why it's there. And I'm not saying it has to go away, but I often question you why it has to stay. Yeah. Everything that we kind of came to through conversation was something that you were like, I don't know why. I can't really answer your questions the way you're poking and prodding at me right now, because I'm very poignant with my question. Like, why this? Why? You haven't even thought about it for yourself. No. And so you needed time away to kind of see how you felt about that. And then you would actually, through conversations more and more, be able to articulate why it was that way and if it shifted for you. And so I think we kind of like became each other's.
It's like that twin flame stuff. It's how they talk about you end up mirroring for someone else what they are most challenged by or need to work on because of that core connection. And I'm not necessarily like, I do still think we have some twin flame to us, but since I'm not as big a fanatic about that subject matter as I once was, it's still just the concept of there's something special about our relationship, this bond that allows me to challenge you while also loving you. And while the challenge can be painful and turbulent, the love can still be sweet and uplifting in the midst of that yin yang situation.
Right. It's like we were like co-growing together.
Yeah.
Can you speak to how it felt to be challenged in that way? Because I remember you kind of talking like, I know she cares about me, but the words she's saying and how she's, or like anything like that. Can you talk to that at all?
Well, yeah, and I think that's the perfect way to start talking about our conversations and the intent versus the impact of them, because I always knew that you were logical. We always were very forthcoming about the fact that I'm more of an emotional being, you're more of a logical being. And so you would not always necessarily find the right words, but that you meant well.
That's exactly it.
You would say things to me and you meant well, but it wasn't eloquent. It wasn't warm. And you're not a warm person anyways. You're nice. You're kind, but you're not warm. And so it was difficult for me to feel such a sweet tie to someone who really didn't communicate in my way at all. But we like to talk about how I translate well in between. I can translate logic talk into feeling talk. And I can often translate, with enough time, feeling talk into logic talk. And so I ended up starting to operate in that mode at all times because, in all honesty, I knew that she cared about me. Because when I told her, I think I'm going to need some time. When you first told me you weren't interested in me in that way, and I told you I was going to need some time, she seemed just so deeply, not hurt by that, but remorseful over, I really don't want you to go. I don't want you to go anywhere. I have to tell you the truth. She's always been honest. She's always been very forthcoming. And that has been a beautiful part of our relationship, that we didn't have to lie to each other, because her inability to be good with words made us have to be honest, because I couldn't flower it up. You didn't flower it up. Whatever it was, this is what it is. And so sometimes in a sense of retaliation, I would tell you exactly what it is for me too. And then that became well, no, I don't want to just tell her exactly what I feel because of retaliation. I want to tell her because I actually feel this way, and this is a relationship I'm finding it's safe to just say exactly what I feel within. So it was very difficult.
Was that the first time you had that type of relationship?
I think that was the first time I was mature enough to know my role in it and what I was doing. I've always been aware that I have translated for the two of us. I've always been aware that I'm the one who cared enough to do it. I was able to do it, and I was aware to do it. And so it almost felt like it was my responsibility. Because you initiated the fact that you showed you still wanted me to be in your life. And because I knew, pride aside, I still wanted to be in your life. If I could be the bridge tree between the two of us, then, and I wanted that relationship, I should be open to it. And when I say relationship, I mean that friendship relationship. And so I've always kind of been open to translating because I was able to, and being with you, being your friend, being your company has always brought me joy. And so I almost saw it as being selfish. I was like, I can translate, so I'm going to get out of this what I can, and I'm going to give what I can, and we'll see what it unfolds to. In the beginning, I can be honest and say that I was hoping that once you saw how awesome I was, you would want to be with me. And then there was probably the difficulty when we were coming up on being friends for about a year, and the waters had been muddied because we had been having sex for months at that point, and we were enjoying ourselves. And it seemed like all the right components for a relationship, and I was like, any day now she's going to wake up and be like, oh, obviously I want to be with her. And it still wasn't happening. And so that's why probably the first year and a half of our 3-year friendship so far, it was difficult for me because I was holding out this hope that most people hold out, that if I care deeply about someone in this way, I just have to show them how awesome I am and they'll see. And I had to learn the hard way, a lesson that I had learned in other relationships also, that was not the case. It didn't matter how awesome I was. She was fully aware of how awesome I was. That's why she loved me so much. That's why you and I have always loved each other so much. We could see it in each other, but that didn't mean that we were aligned in that way or going to want the same things. So that's kind of how I experienced it. But I knew your intentions were good, even though the impact sometimes would really, really hurt my feelings. And so a big component of our relationship is that we aren't afraid of hurt feelings. Yeah. We're much more afraid of not speaking our truth than we are of having hurt feelings.
Yeah. I think being able to speak our truth allows us to get to the root of what we're actually doing and actually feeling. It allows us to flow. I really think it does. And so even though we may need time, we always come back because I think we understand honestly, you don't often hurt my feelings. I think it's because you know how to say it and you're translating for me, and I still haven't figured out 100% how to do it. I think I'm better at it. Yeah. But
I would say you're much better at it.
Especially in the beginning, and especially because it's funny, all of the things that you were helping me understand about myself made me very selfish and very wanting to kind of like shore up the core of me. Mm-hmm. And so first I didn't even know I was supposed to be finding somebody. And so then I meet you and you're just fucking like this being, and it feels like you like have this connection with something not outside of you, but like within you, basically. Mm-hmm. And it was just me in my head, if that makes any sense. I'm doing air quotes, guys. You can't see it. But she was me and I was just me. And so I wanted to find the I. And so once you started kind of putting me on this journey, and I'm so efficient, I'm so logical, I'm like, well, shit, let me put in the processor and doop, boop, beep, boop, boop. And I'm like, really solidify in who I wanted to be moving forward. And that was someone who said what they actually meant, because I wasn't that person. I would always say whatever seemed right. Whatever, if I was in a movie, what would that person say?
What's the script say?
I would try to say those things to people. And so I wanted to say what I actually felt. And so it didn't come out the nicest way for a long time. I think, honestly, in the last maybe like 6 to 9 months is when I got it. During this 3-year time. Yeah. Yeah, it just really allowed us to get closer and closer and closer. To the point where, like, we almost had no separation. Kind of like the month or 2 before we actually decided to get together, I didn't really know I wanted poly. I was just interested in the conversation about it. And so when I was hanging out with you, I grew to love you more and more, but I also was super conflicted because I was like, she's amazing in these ways. But there's things in a person that I still want that I don't think she's interested in. Mm-hmm. And my old beliefs wouldn't let me not have those. And so it's like, I can't see the awesome of you because you don't have these few other things. Mm-hmm. And so it's just shut down altogether. Yeah. Like, no. And I think the one thing that appeals to me about poly is that I can love you for the amazing things that you offer and that you want to offer, because it's innately where you are going, where you want to be. And I can find somebody else who wants to rock climb. You'll rock climb every now and again because you love me. Yeah. But that's not going to be your everyday thing. No. And so if I want somebody who wants to be active, it doesn't even have to be sexual, because I'm not really interested in sex like that. Yeah. But I want to be able to have deep emotional connections and deep just movements. Just kind of like the retreat that we were just at. Like, that was I'm in a relationship with all those people. Yeah. Like, deep emotional connections, and I feel very close and connected with them. To me, that's what open relationships allow. To me, that's what it's about. It's about connecting as deeply as you can in whatever moment you're in. And that may go to sexual, and we have that, that conversation and talk about that.
But I think it's the fact that it's a conversation. Exactly. No matter what it is, it's a conversation. And even understanding really what the person's heart speaks anyways. Mm-hmm. So when me and you were first getting to know each other, I couldn't fathom that you, one, related to sex the way you related to sex, meaning it wasn't of that high of interest. Mm-hmm. So I had to grow to understand she identifies more on the asexual spectrum sexually. Right. And so there's going to be times where she's very receptive to affection, and there are going to be other times where she's not. It's not game playing. It's genuinely how she experiences sexuality. And honest and truly, we both know I thought you were a fuckboy in the beginning because you weren't good at communicating, and because you were kind of on and off again, hot and cold. In growing to get to know you better and understanding who you are and how you navigate the world without me as a friend, it was like, oh, okay, so these things aren't personal. So I was able to stop taking things and choices and behaviors of yours personal. And so when you would talk to me about things, I also stopped projecting my expectations or my thoughts on how someone would experience this onto you, because now I knew you were different than anybody else. And that was appealing in itself, but it also made it appealing more so in the platonic sense. I was like, my friend is really, really fucking dope. She's different. And the more different she becomes, the more I'm aware that maybe we wouldn't work out romantically. But that's why I'm glad that we don't have to have that. So after a year and a half, I had really become very thankful that we weren't in a relationship, because it was giving me time to become a lot more fluid with being able to practice detachment, being able to practice loving someone and spending time with someone, but also not having to possess them or own them to care about them so deeply. And so by the time this year did come around and conversations of relationships or being open came into the picture, I was surprised at how open I was to, she dodged me for like 2 years, she wasn't down for it, but she brings it up now and I'm still considering it. And it's like, yeah, because I'm that fluid now too. Mm-hmm. I know that as long as I have her in my life, I'm happy. And I'm open to trying it as a relationship, because I know that if it didn't work out, it wouldn't change the relationship that I will have with her inevitably. Yeah.
That detachment that you were practicing probably made it more comfortable to get into that. And I think you had said at some points, like, if I hadn't gotten to this point of loving you with my palm open, then we wouldn't have worked out if we had gotten together earlier.
We wouldn't have. I would have been too insecure, probably too possessive, only in the sense of, I think with how my libido was at the time and how I felt about sex and sexuality, I would have felt too rejected by not being consistently received when I wanted to be received in that way. Mm-hmm. Because of previous relationships and the trauma of being rejected, the trauma of being almost like told that was inappropriate, that I had that desire, and to get that under control when it wasn't even a promiscuous desire. It was just this person who I'm with, I want to share myself with them mentally and spiritually and physically. Mm-hmm. And that being not necessarily in line with the people who I was with. A mm-hmm. lot of the people who I had been in previous relationships with had low libidos. And so I think
just train of asexual.
Just a train of people who were like, we can cuddle, but no knocking boots. And I've always been a person with a pretty healthy sexual appetite. And that changes with age and that fluctuates, but it still was the idea of when you want to be received by a person you love, you want to be received by that person. And when they don't want to, even if you are aware not to take it personally, there's still a part of you that takes it kind of personally. And it wasn't until I got past the point where I really wasn't taking it personally at all that it made it so available for us to pursue something even greater, which is what I think that we've stumbled across. Yeah. So the only reason it's even greater is because we check in monthly mm-hmm. to decide if this is what we want right now. So we call it reviewing the contract. So we got together March 31st. And every end of the month, we check in. And sometimes it's very casual. Sometimes we call an official meeting and we say, hey, so where are we at? How are we feeling? What are some things we need to change? What are some things you want to do? So we implement a lot of different cute, sweet, very effective structural things into our relationship so that it can flow smoothly. So do you want to speak to the reviewing of the love contract?
I think it's genius. I think that people who get married should only get married for 2 years. And the contract should dissolve. And they have to re-sign a contract with new rules. Because you're a new person. Yeah. You're a totally new being. And even though we are so fluid with conversation, sometimes that space gives us a space to talk about things that may be small. Mm-hmm. Maybe things that are every now and again, I kind of feel this way about this. It wasn't that big of a deal. That's why I didn't say nothing. Yeah. But just kind of I wanted to be honest and throw that out there. That's kind of, it gives a space for the floor to be open. It's kind of like a city hall or council meeting.
Yeah.
Where you go up to the mic and be like, you know what? There's a pothole.
And I just need someone to fix this.
And every simple. Time I drive by, it goes boop, and it boops so hard.
Ruins my day.
Exactly. So if we could just, we can get that pothole fixed. Thank you. Praise God.
Exactly. Yeah. But it gives us the opportunity to, if there was anything that it's there's been a trend. There's mm-hmm. been a trend of this happening. Can we address that? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we hold ourselves so accountable that we call it out when we make mistakes along the way. It's not something that waits till the end of the month when we review the contract for us to actually talk about.
Sometimes we call it informal meetings.
Yes, it's like a check-in halfway through
I know
the
we just did it 2 weeks ago, but I'd like to call in another meeting.
Even having gotten to the point now where we're balanced enough that even though I've always been the one who translates, you are aware when you need to do better about your translating.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it, 2 months ago, a month or so ago, we realized that you were starting to talk a little crazy to me.
Yeah.
Talk a little mean to me. Not crazy like, oh, she talking, you calling you out of your name and, no, not that type of crazy. But just like,
saying the same jokes I'd been saying, but with malice.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of
a bite.
Yeah. Laughing too hard and not with fun. We're not laughing together right now.
No, laughing at me. Yeah. And me being aware of that. And I was proud of both of us because when we started to notice that she was saying jokes like that, even though I'm bridge tree, even though I'm flexible, even though I'm understanding emotionally, was like, that's not a funny joke. No, we're not going to do that anymore. And at the time she was like, no, I know, I'm a little too far. And she tried to kind of like love it over, like hug it out. But later on, she was like, no, I was being mean, and that's not okay. Yeah. And so we were able to have a very great conversation. A lot of these conversations, let's be honest, I'm tearful through a lot of them. So I'll cry because of how important it is for me to express myself authentically to her. And she's not as emotional as I am, so she doesn't cry, but she's very, very empathetic and very, very understanding. She's with me in what I'm experiencing in such a way that she doesn't have to take it on. And I'm thankful because I don't want her to take the burden of what I feel on. I just want to make sure that she understands. And we're really good at making sure the other understands without having to drown in their own ocean of feelings. Yeah. And I like that because in previous relationships, I don't think I had been mature enough to understand. I don't want company in my misery. I just want to be understood while I'm working on understanding it so that I can get past it. If you climb down into the hole with me, that does neither of us any good. But if you can hold the space for me outside so that you can just shine a light so I know which way I'm trying to get to, I at least can come up to that level and have an honest conversation that while I might be tearful through it, I'm still empowered in it.
Exactly.
If anything, talking about communication and relationships and friendships both, because Chels is my friend before anything else. She's my girlfriend also. She's my partner. But she's my best friend, flat out. And communication has been the most important, imperative, paramount aspect to this relationship because it's what's kept it. It's the glue.
Yeah, it's the foundation.
It is.
Of what we've built this awesome treehouse on.
Awesome treehouse. Just happy kids. Just big kids. Big happy kids who get to grow up together. And so that's why I'm very, very excited to read the poem that I wrote for you. Are you okay with me reading this poem?
Yes, I'm very okay. I love this poem.
She very much loves this. She should because it's a bomb-ass poem. So this Take a Beat moment brought to you by EnergyNMotion is Whoa Man.
You want to spell it for him?
Of course. It's WOAHMAN. So, Whoa Man. Like, oh my God, whoa there. My spirit animal is a woman, and I fell in love with her. Full-lipped, fang-toothed, and wild. I fell in love with the movement, an unstoppable force. She defines the gravity my heavy heart thought it knew. Elevated by holistic healing through love and laws of the world that are out of this universe. She, who was fashioned by the galaxies, made of God's best rough and tumble beauty, smiles moonbeams at me, and I swear I know no better feeling than being the force she chose to reckon with. That's just a little sample of my love sonnets to this one.
Super gay.
Super gay. Super, super gay. And it's just been so sweet because, believe it or not, with how, happily gay I am, this is my first official girlfriend. Yeah. I've been very aware that I've been gay all my life. I thankfully have parents who knew and know and understand and embrace me. And that's not a story everybody gets to tell. Chels also has an amazing mama bear that loves and embraces us. Shout out to Mom. Love you, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
And just being able to be happy, to love who you want to love, and to be loved back, and to pursue self-growth alongside someone who's also pursuing self-growth, who you can share stories with, who you don't need, who you just get to want, who you get to choose every day. And that's a message that we talked about earlier. We really want to drive home when it comes to communication in friendships and relationships. You choose to love. you choose to. There's not always going to be the sweetest feeling, but you choose to love, and you choose to converse over when something makes you uncomfortable, and you choose to also grow past those things or to grow apart from those things. And one of my favorite things about our relationship and the review of the contract monthly is that if we ever decide that it's not working romantically, I'm very excited for what I know we get to have no matter what. I'm not so caught up in the disappointment. I'm not devastated that the romantic side has ended, because I was pretty in love with what we had before we entered this. And so whatever I have, as long as I have it with you, I'm happy.
Yeah.
It's
gonna be great.
Yeah. So I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank my love tribe of the Healing Project DFW and Open Minds Only, Seneca and the Bunch, Simone and y'all. I want to thank everybody who came out to the homecoming experience and who's tuning in for this episode of Energy in Motion. We are growing at the speed of love here, and I'm just so excited, so thankful. So as always, you get to feel whatever you feel, but you will always and forever deserve to heal. Thank you. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.